The clerk has opened the roll and you may record your presence. Please rise and give attention to our guest chaplain, Reverend Verdell Taylor Jr., St. Luke AME Church, Lawrence, guest of Representative Heiberger, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Representative Phelps.
Good morning. I ask that each of you, as I lead you in prayer, that you pray with me and pray in your own faith tradition. Let us pray. Merciful God, we're gathered together on this 14th day of February 2018 to pray for the work of these individuals assembled in this chamber as they prepare to do the legislative work that is before them. We pray, God, that they will represent their districts well and operate in a manner that is pleasing to you. Dear God, please equip these representatives with everything they need to stand up for their convictions, to make just decisions, and look out for the interests of those they represent. Father God, we know that Kansas has new challenges and must redefine itself as a state. Therefore, we pray for the new leadership of this great state. Dear God, because you are our creator and deliverer, we look to you for direction, guidance, and compassion. Thank you, God, for giving us the opportunity to begin each day and each session in prayer. Dear God, Father of all, in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has every member had the opportunity to record his or her presence? Clerk will close the roll and take the attendance. Point of personal privilege, the chair recognizes Representative Holster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everybody. If there's anybody who would like to join in, I invite you now in recognizing the Midwest Innocence Project and attorneys who have worked on the exoneration cases. I know some of you are familiar with what is going on as far as the trial and exoneration of some Kansas citizens. So come on down, we'd like to be a part. They're coming. As we recognize these individuals in this organization today, I ask all of you here, what is your superpower? For these individuals we're recognizing, their superpower is setting free the wrongly convicted. Cheryl Pilot, an attorney from the Overland Park area, along with the Midwest Innocence Project, and Alice Craig, have worked tirelessly on cases in our region. And they are so dedicated that right now Cheryl and several others are across the hallway testifying in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Most recently, their efforts led to the exoneration of Lamont McIntyre, a resident of Kansas City, Kansas, who spent over 20 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. In addition to McIntyre, in the past 2 years, Richard Jones and Floyd Bledsoe have also benefited from the dedication and expertise of these individuals. Those gentlemen spent 18 and 16 years respectively in prison for crimes they did not commit as well. Many of you likely know another former exoneree in the Johnson County area. My friend Darrell Burton is a congregational care pastor at Church of the Resurrection in Leawood, Kansas. Prior to serving in the ministerial field, Mr. Burton was behind bars in Missouri for murder he did not commit. Due to the dedication and efforts of Mrs. Pilot, Darrell was released from prison in 2008 after serving 24 years. Thank you, Cheryl, Tricia, Michelle, Alice, and everyone at Midwest Innocence Project for your dedication to our people and your dedication to justice. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I request that my remarks be spread across the journal.
Without objection, so ordered. Change of reference, House Bill 2728 is withdrawn from the Committee on Appropriations and referred to the Committee on Judiciary. House Bill 2734 is withdrawn from the Committee on Appropriations and referred to the Committee on Judiciary. House Bill 2558 appears on the consent calendar for the first day. Is there objection? Seeing none, it will remain on the consent calendar for the second day. House Bill 2608 appears on the consent calendar for the first day. Is there objection? Seeing none, it will remain on the consent calendar for the second day. Senate Bill 283 appears on the consent calendar for the second day. Is there objection? Seeing none, it will remain on the consent calendar for the third day. House Bill 2436 appears on the consent calendar for the third day. Is there objection? Seeing none, it will be advanced to final action. Final action on 2436, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2436 by Representatives Redmond and Tarwater, an act designating a portion of U.S. Highway 69 as the Brandon Collins Memorial Highway.
This constitutes final action on HB 2436. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Has every member had the opportunity to record his or her vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Coaston votes aye. Representative Berquist votes aye. With 120 voted in favor and 0 against, the passage of HB 2436, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will report the vote. Final action on House Bill 2444, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2444 by the Joint Committee on Pensions, Investments, and Benefits, an act concerning retirement and pensions related to Kansas Public Employees Retirement System investments by the Capers Board, new investments and investment of current investment in companies with operations in Sudan.
This constitutes final action on HB 2444. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Has every member had the opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Mason votes no. Anyone else desire to change his or her vote? With 111 voted in favor and 9 against, the passage of HB 2444 is saying having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Final action on House Bill 2455, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2455 by the Joint Committee on Corrections and Juvenile Justice Oversight, an act concerning the Kansas Juvenile Justice Oversight Committee related to cost of witness due to reductions in youth out-of-home placement.
This constitutes final action on HB 2455. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Has every member had the opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? With 118 in favor and 2 against, the passage of HB 2455 is saying having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will report the vote. Final action on HB 2456, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2456 by the Joint Committee on Corrections and Juvenile Justice Oversight, an act concerning children and minors relating to the revised Kansas Juvenile Justice Code, overall case length limits of Skyers.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2456. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Has every member had the opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? With 120 voted in favor and 0 against, the passage of HB 2456, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. Clerk will report the vote. Chair recognizes Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the purpose of considering those items under the heading of General Orders.
You're for the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. The Chair appoints Representative Buchanan to chair the Committee of the Whole.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
First item of business is House Bill 2505. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2505, the Chair recognizes Representative Phelps.
Thank you and good morning, Madam Chair. There were no committee reports. House Bill 2505 is brought to you by the Committee on Local Government. It was requested by the Kansas League of Municipalities, and it is an attempt to clarify and eliminate some confusion over what role the mayor has in the various forms of government that we have in our state. Many of you are familiar with the commission, city manager, or the commission manager form of government. In that particular instance, the mayor is elected at large, just like the members of the commission. So they are first and foremost a commissioner, and then the mayorship rotates within that body. And subsequently, that person is a commissioner first, so they vote on everything, whether it be charter ordinances or any other business that comes before the body. On the other hand, we have other forms of government in our state as far as the municipal government goes. We have the mayor council, we also have modified mayor council, and we have the mayor council manager. And the reason the league brought this forth to the committee was the fact that there's been some confusion over when the mayor can actually vote with that membership. And so it's been determined that most of the time they're able to vote on charter ordinances, but when other things come across their desk that are classified as legislative or whatever, they in turn are considered executive and therefore unable to vote. So the League of Municipalities brought this new language, replacing the old language that has been around for many, many years and not been updated. And basically, there's an additional little bullet here that indicates that if the body, the municipal body would like the mayor to be part of voting on things other than charter ordinances, they can actually vote by a 2/3 majority and create a new ordinance allowing their mayor to vote on things other than charter ordinances. In the meantime, the language that they have or the ordinance that they have in place remains that way if they so choose. But if they are going to go with the new language that we have in 2505, they in turn would have to repeal that established ordinance that they have. That's kind of a nutshell here of what this bill is about. We did only have one concrete, and that was in general counsel for the League of Municipalities. I'll stand for questions.
Does anyone wish to speak to this bill? Chair recognizes Representative Alcorn.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman. I just want to go here and say the previous representative did a great job of explaining the bill. I think it's a good bill, and I think we need all support. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, Representative Phelps, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the committee rise and report report 2505, favorable for passage.
You've heard the motion by Representative Phelps to report House Bill 2505 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. The next item of business is House Bill 2506. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2506, the chair recognizes Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, so abandoned properties, dangerous structures, blight, unpaid taxes. Each of these results in greater costs to all of us, all taxpayers. Our tax dollars are used in communities of all sizes across our state in an effort to maintain these abandoned properties. Dollars that could be used for vital infrastructure or returned back to taxpayers are instead used to mow lawns, deal with complaints, and increase protective services such as fire and police. The real shame is when unaddressed or unresolved abandoned properties move into what is classified in statute as unsafe structures. When this happens, when a property is beyond any reasonable repair, it costs taxpayers even more. The cost associated with demolishment of any one property could be between $7,000 and $15,000. Getting to this stage leaves no winners, not for the taxpayer, not for the city, not for the neighborhood, and certainly not for the unresponsive property owner. So today we take another look at an existing act that you're familiar with, that you've seen before, that defines abandoned property and provides for a rehabilitation process through a nonprofit. Though this act has been in effect since 1994, it's not been used. It's proved virtually impractical and unusable. So today, we look to modernize the abandoned property laws and make common sense updates that provide abundant protection and safeguards to property owners while improving and clarifying the steps of the process so it can be actually used for the good that it's intended. So we're going to dive into some of the details, so please bear with me. Before we do that, you may be wondering, is this a big enough issue? Does this matter? Well, the Kansas League of Municipalities surveyed their cities, and those cities, 86% said it's a very serious situation. 86%. Most common complaints that you hear at the local level, they deal with blight issues. And when this happens, blight combined with abandonment, here's the result to you and I. First of all, reduction of property values for surrounding property owners, and in some cases, the inability to even sell your property. Or it's the potential hazard for those who may encounter these abandoned structures, especially our children. It also can provide refuge for unlawful habitation or possible criminal activity, and also it poses health threats, whether it's fire or abundance of rodents or stagnant water. All right, so here are the changes in this bill compared to what is currently in statute and what you would have seen in previous years. First of all, there are 3 changes in definitions: changes to abandoned property, changes to blighted influence, and changes to organization. For an abandoned property, there are now a 3-part test, so you have to be delinquent on your taxes for 2 years. It has to be unoccupied for 15 months. Prior legislation, prior acts, says only 90 days. So we're raising that up considerably. And finally, it has to have a blighted influence on surrounding properties. And as I mentioned, the blighted influence definition has also changed. And we've removed such words as morals and the uncleanliness portion, and really focused on those things that are health concerns. Another change is really the process. We're adding a new pathway to the process. The reason it never really worked before is because the act only allowed a nonprofit to initiate this process. So a nonprofit doesn't have the expertise or time to go locate a property and go rehab it. It would be much easier for Habitat of Humanity to go build a brand new home. So we're adding this step where the cities can now initiate the process, and they can go through all the hoops necessary to provide this to the nonprofit. All right, so that's the next change. The process has changed quite dramatically. Well, actually the process has mirrors what is already in statute, but now it's available for the cities. Every step of the way in the process, notification is key. Notification in statutes stay in effect. And on top of that, with a city, they must also provide a plan, just like the nonprofit. So they go to the district court and they provide a plan. And by the way, before they even get to the district court, they have to vote on it at the city level. So they have to vote on whether or not the governing body wants to go put forward a plan for a particular property. All right, another change, moving quickly on. When a petition is presented by either the nonprofit or the city, very specific requirements are now in place that didn't actually exist prior. So if this bill would become law, if you go to the court, if you go to the district court judge, you would need to provide this data. And I'm going to list it because it's important. First, you need to provide history of municipal utility services for the property for the preceding 365 days. So we know, has anybody been there? Have they turned on the water? Have they used anything at all? We also have to provide history of property tax payments for the preceding 3 years. Now remember, you only have to, in per definition, it's only 2 years of delinquent taxes, but yet they have to provide history of 3. The next thing they need is the history of code violations and the city's efforts to remedy those code violations. History of attempts to notify the interest owners of any enforcement actions. So again, lots of notification, and history of actions taken by other government entities regarding the property, such as a lien. All right, a couple more changes. At any time, the owner of that property, the defendant, they can come forward and say, I'm here, this is my property. You couldn't find me, but I'm here. And I want this property, and I have a plan to bring this property into code. I have the resources available to bring the property into code, and I will pay my taxes and bring them current. If that happens, then the whole process can be stopped by the district court. But here's the change. In this particular bill, it actually gives the judge a little bit more flexibility. He can say, okay, you can do that. Thanks for coming in. You have 90 days. And then the individual comes back and they say, wait a minute, I wasn't able to get everything caught up in 90 days. The judge can extend it again. The judge can extend it again. The 90-day addition has been removed, so there is some flexibility there. Okay, once the plan works, remember, we've never had it work before, but once a house is actually rehabbed, and the court finds that the rehabilitation plan worked, and everything is as it should be, the temporary title that city or that nonprofit had, now they can petition for a title for that. And the district court judge can provide that title. There are some other items that relate to how that title transfers, and I'd be happy to answer those questions. I really realize there's a lot going on in this bill, and if you're unfamiliar with the process, it can be pretty confusing. But I would just underline the important fact that this is to save properties, not to demolish properties. On the books already, your cities have the power and authority via other statutes to go through the process of tearing down an unsafe structure. This is not what this bill is about. This bill is about saving homes in neighborhoods rather than creating holes in our neighborhoods. So I'm going to close. This lengthy process that has been outlined today is meant to protect property rights on all levels, from the property rights of the individuals with the abandoned property to the neighbor next door to the abandoned property. Well, all right, I'm going to wait on that. So with that, Chair, I'll stand for questions.
Does anyone wish to speak to this bill? The Chair recognizes Representative Alphala.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I think previous speaker left me speechless. I support this bill. It works good for my neck of the woods, but I would tell you, it may not work in your neck of the woods. I don't know what the fiscal note will be against with litigation. Once you start taking properties that have been abandoned for that period of time, and I know some people have come to me with concerns about, we're land grabbing, but I got to tell you, in Shawnee County, the 57 district, it's desperately needed. A lot of those properties are usually owned by people that are out of state, which creates a big problem for us in neighborhoods that people are trying to keep their area of the boarded properties. And what's happening right now in the wintertime is these vacant properties are starting to catch on fire. In small urban neighborhoods, we're probably 10, 12 feet away from the next neighbor. So I think it's a good bill, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Look at the bill, it may not fit your area. Thanks.
The chair recognizes Representative Hodge.
For the carry, the bill, any questions? Representative, is there a process for this already in place for the local municipalities and counties?
Not for the counties, for the cities. Yes, that's what we are actually changing. The process exists.
Okay. Does it vary from city to city?
No, it does not.
Okay, so there's already a uniform process for the cities. Is that what your answer is?
There's a uniform process that has not worked, and it is in statute, yes.
Okay. Does this in any way usurp the home rule of the cities, or does it enhance it?
It does not usurp any home authority.
All right. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Representative Ward.
Question to clarify. As I read the bill, there are 3 conditions that must exist before you would be defined as an abandoned piece of property. Am I correct in reading that?
Correct.
And they are that you haven't paid your property taxes for the 2 preceding years, and that you have not lived in the house for 15 months, and that the property has a blighting influence on the surrounding areas. Am I correct in those 3 things?
You are correct.
Thank you. Here's what, having served on a local city council, here's the 3 kinds of cases that abandoned property. One is the elderly lady who's living in her homestead, who can't get out and do the things that need to be done, and her property slowly deteriorates. Those aren't the problem houses. Cities tend to have programs right now, I can't say all cities, but certainly in Wichita and some of the bigger, to help that person. That's not the houses that the neighborhoods are concerned with. The second category of houses that fall into abandoned property are those where the mom and dad have both passed away, the children no longer live in the area, and none of them want to move back into the house, so the house sits abandoned, not lived in. And the kids can't decide what to do with it. You got to fix it up to sell it. Nobody really wants to come back and do it. There's not a market to it. That's a problem. Not as big a problem as the third category, but that's a problem. And the third category, which is by far and away the most problematic for any city, is the out-of-state landlord who buys property for the purpose of using it. Some are good, decent people who want to improve the property and make a living and be a landlord. Too many of them only want to cash out as fast as they can and put people in there for an amount of money, and they never do any of the maintenance, they never do any of the upkeep, and all they keep doing is churning tenants until the property reaches a point where nobody will rent it. Those are the problem places. Okay, so that's the background. Here's the conflict that political. We live in Kansas. Okay, we believe in our castles. We believe that big bad government should stay the heck out of our business, and that's our castles. And as you sit on that city council, it's really, really hard to say, I'm going to take somebody's castle. Even though mom isn't living in the house, it's no longer a family heirloom, it is an out-of-state landlord, it's still very difficult. And I can tell you, having represented neighborhoods for over 20 years, this is their second most important issue. Obviously, safety of the streets and these abandoned houses. Rudy Giuliani hit on it about 20 years ago when he said the cracked mirror. One little piece that shows your neighborhood isn't taking care of itself, that's where the bad guys say, that's where I want to go to work. That's where your drug houses are. That's where your flop houses are. That's where all kinds of bad things happen. So abandoned property is a big deal about public safety. Also, and I know the governor made a big point of when he vetoed this bill a couple of years ago about, I don't want to take away anybody's property values. Here's the thing, what about my property values? I live on the street where that house 3 doors down hasn't been taken care of in 20 years. It drives down the cost of my house. It drives down the cost of my neighbor's house. And it makes my neighborhood unsafe. So abandoned property is a very important issue. These 3 conditions virtually make it impossible, because as anybody knows that's been in city government and had to deal with this, you don't have to pay your property taxes for 3 years before the government can take any action to foreclose on your house. 3 years of non-payment. And here's the other part of our law. It says if you pay 1 year, you get another whole year to do it. Okay, so to not pay your property taxes for 2 years, all they have to do is send in one payment, they're good. And so they don't qualify, even though the house has fallen down. And the 15 months isn't too bad. I think we could live with that. Obviously the blighting factor, if we could have props, and I show you pictures of the houses we're talking about, no one would think that these are castles or even shacks in a lot of cases. You wouldn't send your worst enemy into that house. You would see that that's not a problem. My concern is the tax condition, if it was or in each one of those 3 things. Not pay your taxes for 2 years, or not live in it for 15 months, or have a significant blighting factor, that would make the bill much more effective. I would probably vote for it because it is somewhat progress, but we can do a lot better with these movies. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Does anyone else desire to speak to the bill? If there's no further discussion, Representative Williams, you may close. Excuse me, Representative Berquist. Chair recognizes Representative Berquist.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that this bill very effectively deals with what we as who've been in city government for years have tried so hard to deal with, the personal effects of grandma who can't afford to pay their taxes, or grandma who can't find somebody to take care of the property, but also then those kids that Mr. Ward spoke about, that won't take care of the property because mom died or moved out and no longer is anybody caring about it. I think it's very effective that all 3 of those components are there, because if grandma's still there and she can't pay her taxes, we're okay to be able to find some other way to remediate the situation. If the taxes aren't being paid and there's no one there, but there's still other issues to be dealt with, we're okay. We're in a situation that still needs to be fixed. But if all 3 of those components are there, I think we've got a very clear path to be able to allow a nonprofit to do what nonprofits really do want to do. Nonprofits want to make the community better, and that the government does this 3-phase of clearance. They can clear the path to not have a confusing issue, to go ahead and move forward and get the problem taken care of. That's how our communities will get to looking better, and that's how we'll take greater pride in what we have. Thank you. I support this bill.
Does anyone else desire to speak to this bill? There's no further discussion. Representative Williams, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do appreciate your time listening regarding this issue, and I ask for your support considering a way to make our Kansas communities better, more whole. So with that, Madam Chair, I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports HB 2506 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion by Representative Williams to report House Bill 2506 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The next item of business is House Bill 2476. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2476, the chair recognizes Representative Arnberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There were amendments, so I move to adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. You may proceed.
Thank you. House Bill 2476 is simply adding alcoholic candy to the definition of alcoholic liquor. Alcoholic candy is defined as any candy or other confectionery product which has an alcohol content greater than 0.5% alcohol by volume. In committee, we had a few amendments. One was adding the contents of House Bill 2475, which allows rival breweries to sell growlers and growlers for off-premises consumption. Specifically, this new subsection states that a licensee may sell refillable and sealable containers on the licensed premises for consumption off premises. The authorization comes that the containers must be between 32 and 64 fluid ounces of beer, typically the size of a growler or growler, respectively, and the licensee affixes a label to the container indicating the licensee's name and the name and type of beer to the container. Lastly, the committee amended the definition of domestic beer from 10% to 15% alcohol by weight. Some of you may be thinking, whoa, wait a minute, we just had a huge debate over raising licenses from 3.2 to 6.0%. Folks, that's alcohol by volume, not alcohol by weight. There's a definition that creates alcohol by weight. For example, a Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer, their alcohol by volume is 4.2%, but the alcohol by weight is 3.33%. If enacted, this will go into effect July 1st, 2015. That's the basics of House Bill 2476. I will stand for questions.
Does anyone desire to speak to the bill? The chair recognizes Representative Ruiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had this bill in committee, consolidated. People were concerned about the candy aspect of it and how infused candy with liquor versus just a candy that has liquor flavor. And Representative, could you please stand for a question? Could you explain to the committee the difference of the infused candy versus the candy?
See if I can find that paper and look into it. Infused candy is liquor flavored with no alcohol. Yes.
So the candy that we're wanting to put in the statute here has actual alcohol in it. Thank you. And that question was brought up on the difference of candies and, it's like kids that put the Tide Pods in their mouth versus alcohol candy. They were concerned about that. But the president did a good job of explaining the bill, and so it's be up to the wisdom of the body to decide whether they vote this bill or not. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The chair recognizes Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With the carrier of the bill, we kind enough to stand for a few questions.
Anything for you, Representative?
That's kind of you to say. Unfortunately, I'm in a bit of a serious mood today regarding alcoholic candy. I'm sorry. As I understand the way this bill works, it would be legal to sell alcoholic candy in retail liquor stores if this bill passes. Is that correct? Yes. And we have, for example, child-proof containers for medicines to try to keep small children from overdosing, if you will, on medications, correct? Yes. Does this bill require any type of child-proof packaging for this alcoholic candy that is going to be sold in liquor stores? No. And we also have sometimes warning labels that say, keep away from children. And we see that on everything from bleach to medicine. Does this bill require any type of a label that says, keep this away from children?
Sure doesn't.
And when you have a piece of this alcoholic candy in your hand, if you don't taste it, is there any way for you to know that it has alcohol in it?
Well, you have to purchase it at the liquor store.
But once you get it home, and it's there in the candy dish, and there's the M&Ms there, and there's, you know, the Snickers bars, you can't tell the difference between the booze candy and the sugar candy, can you?
I don't know, I've never tried it.
I have. More than once. But how would a child know the difference if they came across alcoholic candy from regular tooth-rotting candy?
You know, I think it would, this is kind of maybe a parenting issue, and maybe it shouldn't be out, but that's just my opinion.
Sure, and I do agree that there are a lot of parenting issues, but what happens when the child goes over to the neighbor's house to play and maybe the parents aren't quite as attentive as our parents were? I know your father. Parenting alone wouldn't keep the child away from it, would that circumstance?
I guess not. You know, I guess I would just hope that the parents in Kansas would not have this out, but you can't fix that. It's not a law.
Okay, well, I very much appreciate your responses to my questions this morning. Thank you. And with that, Madam Chair, I have nothing.
The clerk will read.
Page 1, striking all lines 12 through 36 by striking all pages 2 through 6. On page 7 by striking all lines 1 through 32. On page 10 and line 12 by striking 41 and 102. And also in line 12 by striking R and inserting is by striking all the lines 14 through 17 and renumbering sections accordingly. On page 1 in the title, in line 1 by striking all after the semicolon, by striking line 2, line 3 by striking all before relating, in line 6 by striking all after amending, by striking line 7, in line 8 by striking all before 4130A-B, and inserting KSA 2017 sub. Also in line 8 by striking all after existing, and in line 9 by striking all before the period and inserting section.
May I proceed? Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a serious matter, and I know on its face it seems like it's no big deal. And I want you to understand that when it comes to alcohol, I don't want to seem to be a hypocrite. I'm quite familiar with the product myself from years of experience. But this is not a good idea. I visited this morning with representatives of the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, and I asked them, I said, you know, first, can this be sold presently in a liquor store? And the answer is no, because it doesn't comply with the packaging law. Then I asked, can this alcoholic candy be sold at the grocery store? And I don't have an answer back to that question yet. But I can tell you from personal experience, there are grocery stores who are selling this product. If I had time, I would have devised an amendment this morning to close that loophole. But I'm here to deal with what we can deal with. Alcoholic candy in the hands of children is dangerous, period. Now, you might be able to draft a bill that called for some sort of child packaging to at least keep kids from finding it on that top shelf and opening it up and thinking it's okay to eat. Maybe you could at least put some warnings on the package that would tell other people that this is booze candy and not regular candy. But even if you did all of those things, children are attracted to candy, and you can't tell the difference between this candy and the other kind of candy. And I know when I was a little boy, I know where the alcohol was kept up above the refrigerator. And it may come as a surprise to some of you that we found a ladder or a stool, actually, when we got up there, we had a taste. And it didn't taste very good. It took me a long time to develop a taste for it, and I wish I never had. But when it comes to candy, it tastes good, kids are drawn to it, they think it's okay to eat it, and in sufficient quantities in small enough children, it could have a very serious effect. But it also has another problem, and that is it conditions children at a very young age to associate alcohol, drinking, candy, pleasure, happiness, good things. And so I'm not approved about drinking. I, in fact, was one of the proponents of the bill to allow drinking in restaurants at 6 a.m. even on the Lord's Day. But this is not a good idea, and I urge you to add this amendment. The rest of the bill is just fine. Thank you.
Does anyone desire to speak to the amendment? The chair recognizes Representative Barker.
With the offer of the amendment, Daniel Clark.
Yes, we are. And have you found an error in my draftsmanship?
I just want to address one question. Does your amendment also, you go to page 3, page 2, you're changing the alcohol content of beer?
Not intentionally. I asked the revisor to draw an amendment that only struck references to alcoholic candy. So let's look very carefully. Where is it you think I'm striking something about beer?
Page 2 through 6. Page 7.
Because I'll be very honest with you, I had the revisor draw this morning. He brought it to me moments ago, but I've not had an opportunity to prospect. So
but it was not your intent to, in the bill, it changes the alcohol content of domestic beer to not be the same as the beer was transferred from another state into this state. So we're increasing that by weight alcohol.
I follow exactly what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate your good help on this. Let's take a careful look and see if we can get the amendment fixed.
Okay.
Now, I hate to do it on the fly, but you get what you get from downstairs, and I asked them at the last minute.
And they did that good job.
Indeed, they did.
And while we're doing that, let's talk about the other portion of it.
Certainly, why don't I introduce one of my colleagues, and perhaps they can fix my draftsmanship while we discuss the substance.
You're taking my copy from me? I'm very good while I'm discussing.
That's fine. Let's go ahead.
I'm going to get it to you.
We were talking about the candy. Now, is alcoholic candy regulated? As a matter of fact, it's not, and it should be.
And is this not an attempt to regulate?
This is an attempt to regulate alcoholic candy sold in liquor stores. It does not affect the alcoholic candy that you can buy at the grocery store. And we ought to fix that too.
And we put a limit, I think it's 0.05, but we have more than 0.05 of alcohol. Then it's regulated, but presently it's not regulated. Is that your understanding?
Presently, it can't be sold in a liquor store at all. and it's questionable whether or not alcoholic candy in a grocery store, because it's made with beverage alcohol, falls within the prohibition. And I frankly was not able to get an opinion this morning from the ABC on that point.
As you know, ABC,
I was told that.
They saw that area of need, but you would also agree that on occasion, we would both enjoy a sherry, which has the big alcohol content, you've indicated in the past, you've had those, and so on.
Well, I'm not sure I have. I'm at Kansas and I haven't had that particular drink, but we could make arrangements.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know what to do at this point. I hate to have the body stand at ease.
I'll have a suggestion. I stand in opposition to this amendment. We're making a step forward. This is requested by ABC because they saw a hole in the statute, the alcohol statute. No, alcohol is a regulated substance. Always has been in Kansas. Over the years, we find need where we need to maybe lessen the regulation, and this does. On one area, on the beer, but however, on the candy is a new regulation. I think it's good. Now, of course, we can go to some other state where they put THC in their candy, and they have a problem with that. But since we have no regulation now, well, I think this is a good first move. So I will stand in opposition of the amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The chair recognizes Representative Hodge.
Bonnie, thank you for allowing me to talk to you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last year, we put more alcohol in the grocery stores. The other day, we allowed us to drink more rum and cokes with our omelets. And now we're going to put booze and candy. And I'm just wondering, folks, do we have a problem with alcohol? And if you say no, you may be in denial. There's nothing in this bill about warnings on the packaging. There's nothing that can differentiate these types of candies from others. I would implore you to go online and just look at what this candy looks like, and you cannot differentiate it between normal candy and alcoholic candy. So I think we are going too far. We do not need booze and candy. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have candy in my mouth. Chair recognizes Representative Corbett.
Did you get that?
Thank you. While we're debating this on the floor, I got a good text from one of my constituents. And she says, you can go to Costco or Sam's Club in Missouri and buy this holidays all the time. So it may be a noxious weed in Kansas, but Missouri is doing just fine with it. So anyway, they say it's pretty good over there. I'm going to try to get some.
The chair recognizes Representative Sawyer.
I'm going to rise in opposition to the amendment. Right now, there is no regulation in Kansas on this alcoholic candy, none. ABC came to us, they want some regulations. This puts regulations in place. It's that simple. If you want, there are no regulations now. So if you have concerns about alcoholic candy, we need to have some regulations. This bill provides some regulations. ABC is the one that presented this bill to us because we need some kind of regulation. This product is out there. It exists. It's not like we're creating a new product. It's there. but there are no regulations right now. It's not defined by town statute. We need to define that.
The chair recognizes Representative Crum.
Carries or stand for a question.
Pardon me, Representative, we're back there scribbling a little bit. You may see a revision to this amendment momentarily.
You said you got an answer from ABC on the fact that they cannot sell this candy right now in liquor stores, correct?
That's correct.
That there is a loophole, we can find it in other stores.
That did not come from the ABC. They have not responded as of yet, and I don't mean fault them. It was a last-minute request. They have not responded, but my understanding is right now you can go down to the grocery store and you can get you a box of alcoholic candy.
Okay, but they're not allowed to sell in grocery stores.
Yes, that is my understanding, that you can go to the grocery store and buy you a box of alcoholic candy. If I'd been drafting this principal bill, I would have said, no, you can't sell it at the grocery store.
At the liquor store, you can't sell it at the liquor store.
Can't sell it at the liquor store.
Okay, thank you. I stand in support of this amendment. My wife happens to be the president of a coalition called Hayesville Healthy Habits. They do a survey every year in Hayesville, which has about 11,000 people in it, and I'm sure you would find the same thing in most communities of that size. They put out a survey of what they think the biggest risks for youth are in that community, and every year, this group's been together for over 10 years now, every year underage drinking is the #1 issue people are concerned about. And if you don't think putting the words candy and alcohol together isn't just another way for people to advertise to kids to make it a positive outlook for kids, then I think you're probably not really looking at the real issue here. I'm going to stand in support of this amendment.
The chair recognizes Representative Hauser on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would the chair of the minute come forward for a question, please?
You wanted to carry the amendment?
Yes, sir.
How can I help you?
I'm still in question and confused on what actually does the amendment do? Can you go into detail on that? Was it
Sure.
for package warnings or what?
Okay. And first, I do appreciate the chairman of Fed and State pointing out the drafting error that was made, and we are busy correcting that as we speak. But the principal bill, as I understand it, setting aside beer, okay, the principal bill allows for the sale of alcoholic candy in liquor stores. The law does not presently allow a liquor store to sell alcoholic candy. And what this bill does is it removes from the bill regarding beer any permission for the liquor store to sell alcoholic candy. Now, where the problem is, if I'd been in committee and arguing this bill there, I would have said, let's get the alcoholic candy out of the grocery store and the dime store because it shouldn't be there. But I can only fix what I have in front of me.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong now. What your amendment does is totally strike the alcoholic candy out. I mean, that's it. It doesn't have any restrictions, it doesn't have any other thing. It just says, we're taking the candy out. I mean, in committee, those two bills were put together as one. So you're basically splitting the bills back up and taking alcoholic candy from it.
That is my intent, Representative, but I must confess, on careful examination, the amendment on the floor at this moment also relates to the beer, and it's my intention, as soon as the scrivener is finished, to request the body's leave to withdraw the amendment and reoffer the amendment that I had intended.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The chair recognizes Representative Finch.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the body. I just want to echo the comments of the representative from Sedgwick who spoke a few moments ago. Right now, this is a completely unregulated market. The attempt from ABC and this committee is to impose some regulations and take alcoholic candies, which are being found in grocery stores in Kansas, out of those grocery stores. And the mechanism to do that is to define them as alcohol and require them to be sold where other alcohol products are sold in liquor stores. A vote for this amendment will keep alcoholic candies in grocery stores. It will not eliminate that practice. If you defeat the amendment and support the underlying bill, you will require that these things be sold with alcohol in liquor stores, not made available in grocery stores where they are currently being found. I rise in opposition to the amendment and in support of the underlying bill because I don't want kids to have access to alcoholic candies, and I sure don't want them to have easy access at the grocery store. Thank you, Madam Chair.
If there's no further discussion, Representative Carmichael, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, I agree with my colleague, the distinguished chair of the Judiciary Committee. This bill should have taken the alcoholic candy out of the grocery store. And you know, if we want to stand at ease for about 30 minutes, I'll have an amendment and we'll take the alcoholic candy out of the grocery store. But what I do know is it just doesn't have any business being in the marketplace. Now, in view of the fact that there was miscommunication between myself and the revisor's office, and they're checking our work right now, with the lead of the House, I would like to withdraw the pending amendment and offer a new amendment that accomplishes the purpose I had intended.
Is there objection to the withdrawal of the amendment? Seeing none, the amendment is withdrawn.
And retaining the floor, are we ready back there? Okay. And with that, then, Madam Chair, I do have an amendment.
The amendment appears short. The clerk will read it.
Page 1, strike. On page 1, line 19 to 20. On page 1 and line 21, strike alcoholic. On page 1 on line 22, strike candy. On page 4, strike all on lines 33 and 34. Page 4, line 35, strike alcoholic. Page 4, line 36, strike candy. And by relettering the sections accordingly.
Representative Carmichael, you may proceed.
Thank you, and again, I apologize for my drafting error. This does what I had intended. This takes out the legalization of the sale of alcoholic candy in liquor stores. What this amendment does not do is it doesn't take the alcoholic candy out of the grocery store. But the problem is the principal bill doesn't do that either, and it should. But I wasn't there in the committee to work the bill and go through all the details of it, but I know this. We don't need to be selling it in liquor stores anymore. We do grocery stores, and we probably need another bill or a good amendment maybe to go over to the Senate to get it out of grocery stores for sure. So that's my amendment.
Does anyone desire to speak to the amendment? The chair recognizes Representative Highland.
Who will carry amendment, please step forward.
Yes, Representative, I apologize. I was being instructed by my leader on the flaws in my thinking.
I have a copy of the amendment.
Yes.
And I think this is handwriting of yours.
Actually, it is not. My loyal and friendly scrivener who will remain unidentified. The very bottom is my handwriting.
Would you care to read that to me, please?
And by relettering sections accordingly.
Okay. Thank you. Folks, councilors tend to make things very difficult for us at times, and this is one of them. ABC came to us and asked us to have this bill drafted. We did. What it does, it is now regulating a part of business that is currently going on. And unlike what you've been told, it will now take that liquor candy out of the grocery stores and only place it in liquor stores. So they can be policed after we pass this bill. So I would encourage you to vote no on the amendment, and then we will go back to the bill, which is a good bill. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Representative Carpenter.
Will the carrier for the amendment please stand for a question?
That's an Obama vote.
No, I don't think so. All right. So, just a quick question here for you.
Yes.
I think you may have said it backwards when you were explaining your amendment, but you said this will take it out of liquor stores and put it in grocery stores. Did you mean the opposite?
No, I'll tell you something. My leader's a wise man, and he tells me that the way even this revised is drafted is it's going to leave it in the grocery store, it's going to put it in the liquor store, and I want it gone, period. And so I don't know when it's procedurally correct, but I think this bill needs a trip back to committee for a second look to make sure that number one, we get it out of the grocery stores, and number two, I don't think it should be in the liquor store either.
Okay, so just real quick, so your amendment allows it in grocery stores and liquor stores.
Well, as I understood it, the law allows it in grocery stores now. I'm not trying to put it in the grocery store.
Okay,
but I'm being told
it's unregulated.
Yeah, and I'm being told though, however, perhaps the effect of this on-the-fly drafting might be to specifically keep it at the grocery store and not allow it at the liquor store, and that's not my intent. And so at the appropriate time, I intend to make a motion to refer this matter to committee so that the committee can take a look and say, do you really want this stuff in the grocery stores, or do you want it gone from Kansas?
Okay, thank you, Representative.
Madam Chair, if I might retain the floor.
You may proceed.
I'm told the appropriate procedure is with the leave of the body to withdraw the second amendment that I made and make a substitute motion to refer this bill to the Penn State Committee for further consideration.
We'll handle those one at a time. Is there objection to withdrawal of the motion, of the amendment? Seeing none, the amendment is withdrawn. Now, would you repeat your motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we refer this bill to the Federal and State Affairs Committee.
There's a motion. Is there discussion on this motion to refer back to committee? Seeing none, you may close on your motion.
I understand that the chairman of Fed and State Affairs will be having a meeting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And I understand I may be appointed to be there. So I suggest let's take a quick look, bring it back, and make sure we've got this so the members know exactly what they're doing. And with that, I close on the motion.
You've heard the motion by Representative Carmichael to refer back to the Committee on Federal and State Affairs. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. No. The nays appear to have it. Division has been called for. The clerk will open the roll, and you may vote. Has every member had an opportunity to vote? The clerk will close the roll and take the tally. The motion fails. 37 to 75. We're back on the bill. If there's no further discussion, Representative Arnberger, you may close.
Madam Chair? Go ahead. Thank you, Madam Chair. Great discussion. Disagree with the other side, just throwing that out there. With that being said, Madam Chair, I move that when committee rises and reports, it reports House Bill 2476 favorable for passage.
You've heard the motion by Representative Arnberger to report House Bill 2476 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? No. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion carries. This concludes our general orders. The chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move to rise and report.
You've heard the motion to rise and report. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes.
Clerk, read the committee report.
Speaker, the Committee of the Whole recommends House Bills 2505 and 2506 be passed. House Bill 2476 be passed as amended.
Buchanan.
Mr. Speaker, I move the adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. The committee report is adopted. Reports of standing committee, the clerk will read.
Committee on Federal State Affairs recommends House Bill 2498 be passed. Committee on Federal State Affairs recommends House Bill 2460 be amended. Bill be passed as amended. Committee on Education recommends House Bill 2578 be amended. Bill be passed as amended. Committee on Agriculture recommends House Bill 2729 be passed because the committee is the opinion of bill is non-controversial nature be placed on the consent calendar. Committee on Government Technology and Security recommends House Bill 2560 be amended by substituting a new bill to be designated as a substitute for House Bill number 2560 as follows. An act concerning information systems and communications creating the Kansas Cybersecurity Act, establishing the Kansas Information Security Office, establishing the Cybersecurity State Funding, and the substitute bill be passed. Committee on Corrections and Juvenile Justice recommends House Bill 2551 be amended. The bill be passed as amended. Committee on Agriculture recommends House Bill 2619 be amended. The bill be passed as amended. Committee on Water and Environment recommends House Bill 2691 be amended. The bill be passed as amended. Committee on Financial Institutions and Pensions recommends House Bill 2594 be amended. The bill be passed as amended. Committee on Health and Human Services recommends House Bill 2600 be amended. The bill be passed as amended. Committee on Health and Human Services recommends House Bill 2573 be amended. The bill be passed as amended. Committee on Local Government recommends House Bill 2628 be amended. The bill be passed as amended. Committee on Local Government recommends House Bill 2597 be passed.
Introduction of bills, is there objection to turn to that order of business? Seeing none, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 2746 by the Committee on Appropriations and Act concerning employment security law relating to unemployment benefits for privately contracted school bus drivers. House Bill number 2747 by the Committee on Appropriations and Act enacting the State Post Audit Act, abolishing the Division of Post Audit within the legislative branch, creating a Post Audit Division within the State Treasurer's Office, concerning the transfer of powers and duties, abolishing the Legislative Post Audit Committee and the Audit Services Fund. House Bill number 2748 by the Committee on Taxation, an act concerning sales and compensating use tax relating to rates, exemptions, food and food ingredients. House Bill number 2749 by the Committee on Taxation, an act concerning sales and compensating use tax relating to county-wide retailer sales tax rates in Jackson County.
Are there announcements? Members, former Representative Sue Thorne is with us in the gallery. Representative Spain Brown to replace Representative Eileen Horn on the House Fed State Committee on Thursday, February 15th only. Representative John Carmichael replaced Representative Nancy Lusk on the House Federal and State Affairs Committee on Thursday, February 15th only. Representative Eber Phelps replaced Representative Henry Helgerson on the House K-12 Education Budget Committee today, Wednesday, February 15th only. Representative Jack Timish replaced Representative Scott Swab on the House Insurance Committee on Thursday, February 15th. This is a temporary appointment and will expire at the end of the day. Representative Francis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rural Caucus will meet today immediately upon adjournment. We're going to have a presentation from the judicial branch on their budget. The host will be Kearney & Associates, and we're having barbecue. See you then. Thank you.
Representative Sloan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Government, Technology, and Security Committee will resume its deliberations at 5 o'clock today in our normal room 218 North. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Richard Baker.
Reminder, tomorrow we have broadband lunch and learn tomorrow. We're going to have some good food. It will be in 281 North immediately following session. Stan Adams with SCA Broadband Consulting will talk about opportunities and roadblocks in broadband. Thank you.
Representative Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the Johnson County delegation, our luncheon is today in room 144 South. Our host is the Kansas Hospital Association. Please attend. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Ballard.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for Democrats Thursday Summit tomorrow at 12 noon or as soon as we get off the floor in 152 South. Thank you, Speaker.
Representative Schrader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow morning at the prayer breakfast, we have Doug Burley. He's the Leadership Development Foundation and was previously president of Young Life. He will be our speaker tomorrow morning at the prayer breakfast at 142 South at 7 a.m. So please come and join us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Vickers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. South Central Delegation, we have a meeting in room 152 South, immediately upon adjournment. We will be talking about broadband issues. Thank you.
Representative Whitman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the Democratic Caucus, we will have an agenda tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. That is tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. for agenda. Thank you again, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader Hyman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Republicans will have calendar review at 8:30 a.m. in the morning in the old Supreme Court room. Mr. Speaker, I move the House adjourn until Thursday, February 15th at 11 a.m.
And for the motion, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. We are adjourned.
Join us back here. Or no, sorry. I got distracted. Join us back here today at 2:30 for the Senate Vice President.